Chapter 1905 Pyrrhic Victory. Unexpectedly, the citadel housed multiple expansive subterranean levels. This was logical, given the ephemeral nature of the surrounding lake. It would rise when the hollows were submerged and recede once the waters traversed the remnants of the deceased deity into its colossal spine. Consequently, these underground levels were only beneath the surface when the lake was at its peak. Most of the time, they remained above water, featuring an additional grand entrance located lower than the immense hall where the ambush had occurred. Sunny discovered the gateway beneath a crystalline dome nearby that entrance. He stood motionless for several moments, astonished by the sights and sensations before him. Behind the dome's transparent walls, a small grove thrived. Outside, scarlet vines wrapped around the structure, yet inside, ordinary plants flourished. Lush green grass, ancient oak trees, soft moss, and vibrant flowers adorned the hidden meadow's center, where a serene pond of clear water lay still in the peaceful darkness. Subtle ripples disturbed the pond's surface, hinting at an underlying current that Sunny couldn't immediately discern. These were the first plants Sunny had encountered in Godgrave that remained untouched by corruption, in the entire dream realm, except perhaps those introduced by the inhabitants of the waking world. Moreover, as he entered the crystal dome, Sunny felt a profound sense of sanctity permeate the air, untouched by the corruption that plagued the rest of the cursed area. Intricate carvings adorned the dome's perimeter, their patterns reminiscent of ancient protective spells that hinted at forgotten lore. The pond serves as the gateway. Sunny glanced at the placid water, unable to gauge its depth. With a shrug, he turned away and melded back into the shadows, rejoining Nephias and the other saints. Soon, they all took shelter in the grove. Above them, the citadel was ablaze and deteriorating. Its walls, sturdy enough to withstand the scorching flames summoned by Nephias, held for a time. However, the structure had been overtaken by the scarlet infestation over the years. The vines and trees piercing its framework acted as fuel, allowing the fire to spread and consume the ancient walls. Amidst the chaos, faint echoes of old chants resonated through the flames, suggesting that the citadel's ancient defenses were beginning to reactivate. These sounds hinted at dormant mechanisms that might offer unexpected aid or pose new threats. The flames would soon reach the lower levels, but Nephias could defend at least one floor from being engulfed. The bloodied saints sat quietly on the grass, exhausted and shaken. Only Sir Gest appeared somewhat content, though he remained silent, focused on cleaning the cane he had picked up before descending to the ground level. One of them needed to erase Revel's mark on the citadel, and replace it with their own. However, 6 of the 7 surviving saints already controlled their own citadels, making it impossible to take over another without relinquishing their current authority. The ideal candidate was the saint injured during the ambush, but he was unconscious. After a brief discussion, the saints of the Sword Army decided to wait for the time being. They contemplated reinforcing their defenses and utilizing the grove's sanctuary to strategize their next moves, aware that the fluctuating lake levels could offer both opportunities and obstacles. Of course, Sunny could have seized the citadel himself. With his 7 incarnations, he could establish 7 tethers instead of 1. But he chose not to reveal this to the King of Swords. Instead, he simply sat down and gazed into the distance, contemplating the fragile balance of their current position. There was much on his mind. The battle, they had technically won. They repelled the ambush and took control of the citadel's gateway, achieving the expedition's objective. Soon, the King of Swords' influence would extend to central Godgrave, with his domains spanning from the clavicle plain to the breastbone reach. Even if Sishan and her 7th Legion captured the western citadel, the Song domain would still control fewer citadels, possess less territory, and struggle to penetrate deeper into the hollows from their distant stronghold. Today, the Sword Army had secured a victory. However, it was a Pyrrhic victory. Sunny sighed. Revel's retreat was partially advantageous for the Song forces. Yes, they had lost the citadel, but their enemy had also suffered significant losses. 7 saints from the Sword domain were dead. Silent Stalker had taken more lives than anyone else, killing 3 of the Sword Army's transcendent champions. Lonesome Howl and her reflections followed, with 2 kills among them. Moonveil had slain 1, and the final fallen saint was defeated by the risen dead. Revel hadn't killed anyone personally, but she had orchestrated the entire battle. In contrast, the Psalm army only lost 3 of Mordred's reflections. While their loss was notable, it paled compared to the casualties endured by Nephi's team. The Sword Army was already disadvantaged with fewer saints. Losing 7 champions widened the gap in transcendence between valor and song, likely affecting all future battles negatively. Thus, none of the actual victors were pleased. Concealed behind his mask, Sunny cast a furtive glance at Nephis. She had already finished tending to Sir Jest and his own wounds. Now she sat by the pond, gazing at the water with her usual detached demeanor. A faint aura surrounded her, suggesting she had begun to unlock a new aspect of her power. She was in a difficult position. As the commander of the expedition, Nephis bore responsibility for her people's deaths. Each loss must have weighed heavily on her. Sunny understood the agony of failing those who had trusted you with their lives. Many soldiers had perished to reach the citadel, and now, 7 saints were dead, each a unique talent and trusted companion. Nephis had more leadership experience than he did, having ordered more people to their deaths. However, one never becomes accustomed to such losses. Well, perhaps that wasn't entirely true. Envil and Kisong seemed to have developed a considerable tolerance for sacrificing lives for their goals, and there were likely others like them. But Nephis had not. She was likely suffering deeply. Moreover, while leading these warriors, she was also plotting against their king. In a way, she was an outsider among them, a traitor even. Her primary concern was who would control the citadel, aiming to weaken the 2 sovereigns against each other. Navigating this situation must have been challenging, both morally and emotionally. Adding to this was the fact that her capacity for emotions and morality, her humanity, was somewhat diminished by the consuming flames of her aspect. Recently, she had started experiencing fleeting visions of an alternate path, hinting at a deeper internal conflict. Sunny wanted to speak with her, but they couldn't have an honest conversation while surrounded by the other saints. After some time, the members of the conquest party regained their composure. Or perhaps they simply grew weary of the silence, and began discussing the battle, sharing their experiences. The conversation gradually shifted to the structural integrity of the citadel, and the mysterious mechanisms that seemed to be activating in response to the ongoing destruction. Sunny listened for a while, learning about Moonveil and Lonesome Howl's capabilities. He briefly recounted his own encounter with Revel, which earned him a stern look from Nephis. After that, he couldn't wait any longer. The fire was already creeping up to this level, and the ground had trembled violently some time ago, indicating the upper levels of the citadel had collapsed. Since Nephis was busy preventing the flames from damaging the crystal dome, Sunny announced he would check the situation above and vanished into the shadows. He intended to check on Saint and assess any changes in her condition that might influence their next moves. Chapter 1906 Dark Armor. Moments later, Sunny emerged from the darkness onto a towering pyre of burning debris. The garden temple had indeed fallen, devoured by a raging inferno. The mound of rubble still blazed, and the intense heat would have reduced an ordinary human to ash instantly. Even a saint could have been incinerated or suffocated by the thick, black smoke. However, thanks to the onyx mantle, Sunny was largely unharmed. It wasn't comfortable, but he could navigate the burning ruins freely. He quickly located Saint. She stood out distinctly. Amid the fiery wreckage, there was an area shrouded in impenetrable darkness, silent and serene. His shadow was within. While he couldn't see her, he sensed her presence, and that of his shadows. Sunny paused at the edge of the sphere of true darkness for a few moments. That's new. Saint had always carried a bit of elemental darkness within her, true. But she had never been able to summon it in this way. only to use it to manifest a weapon or cloak a memory. It seemed that defeating the reflection had filled the heart of darkness to capacity, allowing her powers to evolve. From what he could tell, Saint had gained an ability similar to Revel's. She could now blanket an entire area with her darkness. The range wasn't as extensive as Revel's, but it was still significant. Additionally, subtle changes in the darkness hinted at the presence of ancient protective wards, possibly remnants of the Citadel's original defenses that could now be harnessed for their own use. Sunny smiled. What was important was the synergy between this new power and Saint's mantle of darkness ability. When surrounded by darkness, especially true darkness, her speed and strength will increase. Her wounds will heal. Now that Saint could freely unleash elemental darkness, she could remain enveloped by it at all times. This meant she could almost always benefit fully from the mantle of darkness. There was more to it as well. Although Sunny wasn't sure how to assist Saint in evolving, he felt that this new power could be her first step toward becoming a tyrant. After all, tyrants were beings who exerted their influence over the world, similar to the sovereigns, but in their own unique way. Most tyrants controlled either a territory or an army of minions, often both. The ability to engulf an area in elemental darkness was akin to gaining control over it. Isn't that right? Sunny moved forward, simultaneously taking control of one of the incarnations wrapped around Saint's body. Otherwise, he would have been blinded by his own shadow's power, which would have been quite embarrassing. Without the immediate pressure of battle, Sunny was amazed by the strange and miraculous sensation of merging with another being once more. A faint, harmonious resonance echoed between them, suggesting a deeper connection forming. He was momentarily dazed, absorbing the complex, otherworldly feeling of being one with Saint's body. He also felt a sense of relief, noticing that her severe wounds were healing. She had spent all that time nestled within her own summoned darkness, nourished and sustained by it. Then, a loud noise diverted his attention. It was the sound of a battered onyx breastplate clattering to the ground. Sunny blinked a few times. Then, he blinked again. No, wait. What? Saint seemed to be removing her armor. There was no doubt. He was seeing the world through her eyes after all. The elegant stone knight stood in the darkness, methodically stripping off her shattered armor. She was nearly free of it, with only a few pieces remaining. Sunny had seen glimpses of Saint's face and skin before, but never outside the intricate, formidable suit of armor. It was quite a shock. Beneath the onyx plates, Saint wore simple garments, much like any knight would. Her figure was flawlessly alluring, complementing her inhumanly beautiful face. Her skin matched the color of the onyx armor, giving the illusion that she was made of stone, yet she was not. Although Saint's body appeared stone-like and possessed many stone properties, it was merely stone-like. Now that Sunny could sense it, he realized more clearly than ever that she was a being of flesh and blood, or at least of flesh and dust. Seeing her like this reminded Sunny of the beautiful statue of the storm god he had once seen in the shrine of the Ebony Tower. It was evident who Nether had drawn inspiration from when creating the stone saints, at least in appearance. Saint, meanwhile, gave him an indifferent look and continued removing her armor. However, as she did so, faint glowing runes appeared on her skin, pulsating with a soft light that hinted at a hidden power awakening within her. Her greaves and vambraces fell to the ground, leaving her completely unprotected. Sunny recalled that she hadn't come here just to gaze around. But why is she taking off the armor instead of repairing it? His answer came moments later. Saint knelt beside the broken armor, gazing at it for a while. As she did, the runes on her skin began to glow brighter, reacting to the presence of the shattered onyx pieces. It seemed as if a hint of an unknown, somber emotion flickered in her ruby eyes. Behind this, a subtle tear of molten darkness traced down her cheek, a rare display of vulnerability. Then, she raised her hand and brought her fist down. The adamantine onyx shattered like glass, and was absorbed into her body, just as the memories she had consumed were before. However, this time, the absorption seemed more deliberate. channeling the runes on her skin into her very essence. Suddenly, the crimson flames burning in her eyes deepened, and Saint appeared stronger. A faint aura of protection enveloped her, suggesting she had unlocked a new defensive capability. Standing with a proud expression, she straightened her posture. Moments later, her beautiful form was enveloped by flowing darkness, and that darkness solidified, encasing the body of the silent shadow in an impenetrable shell of intricate onyx armor. Pristine and new, yet this armor shimmered with the ancient runes that now adorned her skin, indicating a fusion of old and new powers. Sunny remained still. "I can't believe it!" Saint had just manifested her own onyx mantle, it seemed. This new form not only provided enhanced protection but also seemed to harmonize with the ancient symbols discovered in the citadel, potentially unlocking new pathways for their quest. Chapter 1907 Negative Quality. After donning her new armor, Saint turned slightly and gazed at Sunny with her usual indifference. He would have loved to study the design of the onyx suit. It was not every day one saw an armor forged of pure darkness, after all, but sadly, he couldn't. That was because Sunny only saw the world through Saint's eyes, and she was looking at him, not herself. How frustrating. This must have been what Cassie felt when conversing with someone in private. The confusion was only made worse by the fact that Sunny did not only share Saint's vision, he shared all of her senses, just like Cassie shared all the senses of those marked by her ascended ability. His avatars were identical copies of his own body, after all, while Saint was very different from him. At least he was already used to her stone-like nature after years spent together. As it turned out, his shadow was not done surprising him today. The ability to summon a pool of elemental darkness and manifest a suit of armor was not the full extent of what she had gained by slaying Revel's reflection. There was some distance between Sunny and Saint, still. The debris was charred and highly unstable, making it hard for her to move. After all, she was close to 3 meters in height and weighed a literal ton. A few of them, actually. So, the debris could very well fail to support her weight, which was why Saint did not walk. Instead, she simply turned into a torrent of darkness and traveled all the way to where Sunny was standing in a heartbeat. It was not quite as instantaneous as moving between shadows with Shadow Step, but still quite fast. The sensation of becoming a stream of darkness was also very different from what Sunny usually felt when traveling through shadows, in many ways that he found hard to describe, but mainly because of how hollow it felt to be one with the darkness. He did not feel embraced by the flow of elemental darkness. Instead, it was a cold and unfathomable thing, too alien and indifferent to be welcoming. Even being a part of it, Sunny felt nothing but profound solitude. A moment later, Saint was towering above him, standing only by a few meters of scorched wooden debris away. The ground shook precariously, and the blackened wood creaked, as if ready to crumble into embers and ash. Of course, either Saint nor Sunny would be seriously hurt if they fell beneath the upper layer of the wreckage. They would not be burned in the infernal depths of the smoldering ruin, either. Still, he would have liked to avoid becoming smeared from head to toe in soot. Before Sunny could do anything, though, something about Saint changed subtly. Did she just? She had. Saint had effortlessly changed the weight of her stone-like body, making it as light as a feather. Sunny blinked a couple of times. Feather of Truth? It was the same ability he possessed, granted by the onyx shell. Saint had not been able to adjust her mass while wearing her original armor, but now that it had become a part of her personal darkness, she could. The effect was more or less the same, but the process was different. Sunny had only vaguely felt it, but it was as if she had not simply changed her mass. Instead, it was as if a negative quality was added to it, thus reducing the weight. Where had that negativity come from? He did not know. Then again, he did not know how the Feather of Truth worked either. Perhaps he had always done the same thing without realizing it. In any case, Sunny was quite pleased with the fact that Saint could change her weight at will now. Naturally, an ability like that was an incredible boon in combat, He had woven it so deeply into his own battle art that fighting any other way seemed clumsy and ineffectual now. However, it was also quite useful outside of combat, since Saint's great weight often presented a problem in mundane situations. Like walking on fragile floors, traveling by boat, or swimming. Considering how often Sonny found himself inexplicably thrown into large bodies of water, that alone was an invaluable boon. Saint stared at him from above for a bit. Then she stared at him some more. He shifted from one leg to another, trying not to take offense. No, but, am I really this tiny? Since he was looking through Saint's eyes right now, he was staring at himself from her great height. From that perspective, Sonny indeed looked like a little toy. Was that how Saint always saw him? He ground his teeth, missing the days when she was a mere monster, and of the same height as him. Fiend had started out as a scrawny gremlin, as well, but now, that gluttonous idiot was 5 meters tall. Sonny did not even want to imagine what he looked like from Fiend's perspective. He might be huge, but he's still an annoying imp inside. In fact, I should start calling him Imp again, just so that the overgrown bastard does not get a big head. Saint, meanwhile, tilted her head a little. Then, he felt her body turning into a torrent of darkness once again. But it did not rush anywhere. Instead, it shrank in size and then solidified back into the figure of the graceful knight. Only now, she was smaller. Suddenly, Sonny was looking at himself from a new perspective, one level with his own eyes. Huh? He remained motionless for a moment. So Saint had not just gained the ability to reduce her weight. She had also gained the ability to reduce her size, and used it to return to her original modest stature, which was great news for Sonny. Simply wonderful news. He smiled behind the mask. But as soon as he was done talking, Saint raised her chin slightly, and changed her size once more. This time, she made it so that she was a full head taller than Sonny. He froze. Nodding with a hint of satisfaction, Saint looked down at him, and then headed away. Sonny remained motionless, absolutely dumbfounded by the outrageous sequence of events. He only managed to regain his composure a few seconds later. What the hell? Where is she even going? There's nowhere to go.